All right, guys, welcome back to Crossman Productions. Guys, it's been a busy day today. So earlier today, we got to sit down with Jason Pitts and Annie Sullivan and talk about the new film that they're working on, "The Forest Through the Trees." I'm really excited about that project. I know that this is a big step forward for Jason Pitts and be able he's already done four films. This is the first feature film that he did that is, something that he's really created on his own. So I'm pretty excited about that. I'm excited by, a lot of our friends who are in it, we got to meet Annie Sullivan, of course, James Stokes and Olivia Disney. We love them. And so it's going to be exciting to see that new film. So, with that said, I have a new person I want to introduce today. I told you guys I ran into this publicist that used to work for Paramount, and he's been just introduced me to some of the most incredible people. We had Nicole Chalet on and Steve Sawyer last week, and just some really cool people. So today I get to introduce you to Dani Hagan. Dani's a singer from LA. So we'll bring her in and we're going to kind of get to know her and her journey and learn a little bit more about Dani. So how you doing, Dani?
Hey, I'm excellent. How are you?
I'm doing phenomenal. I ran into Steve online, Steve Joyner,
Mm-hmm.
and he's just introduced me to some really cool people. I've gotten to sit down and talk to. So he sent me a group of people that he's like, hey, you got to have these people on, and he told me, you got to have Dani on. You got to bring Dani in and get to know Dani. So I'm excited about having you.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
Well, cool. So I'm going to have you kind of introduce yourself to everybody. I told you a little bit earlier that what we do is we kind of introduce yourself, say where you're born and raised, and what was life like for Dani growing up?
I had an absolute idyllic childhood, I have to say. I grew up in Grand Forks, North Dakota, with just the kindest type of people you could possibly imagine. North Dakota nice is a very real thing. So
Wow.
I had a happy childhood with a big family, and my mom recognized a creativity, like undeniable, insatiable creativity of mine. And she put me in every possible creative outlet that she could find: dance and singing and instrument lessons and acting and musical theater and everything. So I've always known since I was born that I wanted to be an entertainer. And so my mom and dad nurtured that my entire childhood. So that was a good way to grow up.
Oh, wow. Wow. So when you started off going to school, were you more into theater, or when did you decide to go into doing music?
I wrote my first song when I was 9 years old. So
Oh, wow.
I started dancing when I was 5, and acting, singing, and dancing always went hand in hand for me. You can't do one without the other. So it's always
Right.
just a creative expression, essentially. And after high school, I moved out to New York City and I went to a performing arts conservatory, and I just did more of acting, singing, and dancing all together. And it wasn't until I came out to LA where I started to really narrow my desires and my dreams and the path that I was on, and that I
Right.
wanted to really focus in on music. So
Cool. So when you said, as you were growing, were you into like theater? Is that because you said dancing and acting? Was you like a theater kid growing up?
Oh, totally. I was an absolute theater geek, music
Right.
nerd. Um, I was in every extracurricular from morning to midnight, just constantly in a class or a production of some sort, of any sort that they would have me.
Wow. So about what age were you when you moved out to LA?
LA, I moved out here, well, right after college,
Okay.
and um, And very quickly, I moved out here because I wanted to do screen acting, basically, for movies and TV. And I did quite well, but I very quickly realized I miss being on stage. I miss the aspect of having a live audience, that immediate connection that you can have. And LA
Right.
just doesn't have the same caliber of theater that I was able to find in New
Right.
York. So I was like, I'm gonna grab a guitar, I'm gonna find a stage, and I'm just gonna start quenching that desire of having a live audience. Let me just play my songs. And that just took off. So I was happy to stay on that path.
Cool. So then when you went to LA, you started doing music. Where'd you first start playing? How'd you kind of get into that?
I had been at a party in the Hollywood Hills that
Okay.
some guy had brought me to. It's so cliche. And
Right.
I met a group of musicians, and I remember we were at like an after party and somebody had a guitar. And so we were all literally sitting in a circle, just jamming and vibing together. And I started singing,
Wow.
and I caught the attention of a few of the guys. And from that circle, that literal circle, so many opportunities popped up over the years, even as recent as like 4 years ago.
Oh, wow.
But one of the guys in the group went over to this guy named Happening Harry, who was a Sunset Boulevard promoter at a venue. And the venue was called the Cat Club. I don't think it's still there anymore. It was recently purchased by somebody else a few years ago. But yeah, I got to cut my teeth on Sunset Boulevard. Some promoter took a chance on me and let me get polished up. And I'm nowhere near where I was then. Now I'm like a seasoned musician, but I'm so grateful for that opportunity.
Cool. So, being a musician, kind of crossing over from acting into doing music, and you've been doing this for a while. So, kind of tell us where's the biggest lesson you think you've learned so far in this industry?
The biggest lesson,
Right.
not to get too hung up on what other people's perspective of what you should be as an artist is. It's fun to play the game and allow people to have an influence and to help you find that direction. But at the end of the day, I'm the one that has to live with the art that I'm putting out. And everyone's got their own version of what you should look like in their head. And you just really got to stay rooted in yourself.
Right.
And it takes a while to find that authenticity. It really does.
Right. And, signing with signing a contract with like a big record company, they tend, well, from what I hear, they tend to want to change the music to whatever the current style is, or want you to play a certain way. Is that the way it is in the industry, or?
There are so many different routes to go down, and record labels will certainly try and strong arm you into this genre, this category, or this sound that's trending right now. For me, I'm not interested in trending or being viral for a moment. I mean, of course, I'd welcome the opportunity, but I'd much rather stay timeless. And again, authentic to my own sound, which is constantly evolving. And yeah, so.
So, do you think like with, the way, social media and the access they have now, do you think it's easier to be able to get into like the music industry like that?
No, not at all. I think we're in the Wild West right now in terms of the music industry, because being signed by a label doesn't have the same notoriety that it had like 20 years ago or something. People are less interested in buying albums, and they're more interested in like that 30-second sound clip on TikTok going viral. That's a flash in the pan. And like, how do you take that and turn it into something sustainable, as well as, it's so tricky because I want more than just 30 seconds of my song to be listened to. And everybody's a bedroom pop star right now, or a bedroom rock star. But for me, again, it's all about that live audience. So I have a hard time like, okay, let me sing this clip for you on the guitar on TikTok. I'm like, no, I want you to come to the venue. I want you to feel the vibrations of the music coming at you through the speakers. I want to make eye contact with you, not through the screen, but like actually eye to eye. So it's just I don't have the answers of how to break into it. It's
Right.
bit of a guessing game.
So how do you approach that to be able to get to a venue to play live? I mean, what's like kind of the process on that?
A lot of it has to do with having local promoters that you work with. So
Okay.
over the years, I've accumulated different connections where, okay, I know this promoter books that venue, but I want to play this venue. So let me talk to this person that manages it and find that back end. The other thing is I have a touring agent for
Okay.
when I go out on tour because I don't have those venue connections in Arizona, but my touring agent does. So I have somebody on behalf of me emailing all these different venues and setting up tour dates for me.
Cool. So do you travel around the U.S. or are you kind of do you try to stay in that Arizona?
Well, we mainly tour through California, but
Okay.
in January we're going to Arizona. We did really well in New Mexico, and I'm
Okay.
definitely looking forward to branching out to the other coast and just all of whoever will listen to my music, whoever will
Right.
have me, I will show up.
Right. So the reason I'm asking is, I work a night job. Well, I'm second shift supervisor for a security company for a big outlet, it's an outside outlet mall, and one of the buildings they have is called Legacy Hall, which is owned by Lexus Box Garden, and they have live bands come every week and play. So, I know the guy who owns the place. So,
Oh,
might
great. I'll hit you
yeah,
up when I come over to your neck of the woods.
right. So, yeah, I wanted to see if they offered you to play there. As a matter of fact, about 2 weeks ago, Soldier Boy played. He was there, um,
Nice.
and then last week they had a Taylor Swift tribute band, and so yeah, she packed the place out. It was pretty close to 1,200 people. Uh,
Wow, that's
they came
huge.
out. Yeah,
That's the tricky part as an artist is you want to play these venues that have a built-in crowd, but then
right,
also the venues rely on the artist to bring the crowd as well. So it's that what comes first, the chicken or the egg
right.
conundrum that we're all trying to navigate.
Cool. So yeah, definitely. I'm gonna talk to my connection over there and see if we can get you booked over at Legacy Hall. So um, now I noticed there's a billboard poster or a record behind you.
Oh,
But what's
yeah, that's me.
yeah? What tell us a little bit about that. What's that?
Well, a few years back, was going to the Grammys
Right.
and as a guest of the Grammys, and I was introduced to an opera singer named Radmila Lally,
Okay.
and she's like, "We should do a song together." I was like, "Okay, let's do a pop rock opera duet."
Oh wow.
So I wrote a duet for us. I co-wrote it with our producer, and it went really well.
Oh wow.
So she put out it was her second album that she released, and she debuted it at Carnegie Hall.
Okay.
So writing this duet for us, I got to go to Carnegie Hall to perform our duet together. And then it got into the hands of a bunch of DJs. It wound up on the dance charts with all the remixes, and we peaked at number 21. So that
Oh
was
wow.
absolutely a wild, educational, incredible ride. Yeah.
Wow. So what kind of music or what style of music do you do?
Generally, I'm identified as like blues rock.
Okay.
Um, it's like an artist's worst nightmare is having to answer that question of like, what category can I put you in? But
Right, right.
it's one of the blessings of the way the music industry is right now, where you don't really have to. There's a time and a place where you do have to narrow it down so that they can market and brand you and pair you with these other musicians and everything. But um, I've had such an awesome bubble around me where I can go a little bit hard rock, I can go a little bit soft rock, I can go like pop rock, and my audience still loves me for it. So I'm allowed to kind
Right.
of let those walls breathe a little bit.
Cool. So um tell us some about your previous projects, and then we'll talk about some of the things that you're currently working on.
All right. Well, let's see. The Billboard was a big one.
Right.
Carnegie Hall was another big one for me.
Right.
And for a long time on Sunset Boulevard, we had something called the Jam Night, Sunset Jam. And this was at the Viper Room, which is like this really iconic music venue here in Los Angeles.
Right.
And so every Monday night, all the best musicians in town who wasn't out on tour at the time, they'd all show up at the Viper Room and we'd just take turns on stage. So every song they'd switch out to a different singer and then switch out the guitarist and then switch out the drummer. And it was this incredible community of musicians. And everyone's like, everybody in this room is a professional. And so that put a lot of pressure on you to rise up. So everybody was just rising up together. And because of that, and of course, when the pandemic hit, that stopped.
Right.
Because of that community still needed a creative outlet once we all went down into lockdown.
Right.
And so we started doing these quarantines together where, in the style of Zoom, where I would film my part and the guitarist would film their part.
Right.
And then we, what's that show? The Brady Bunch, where they have
Yeah.
So we would do music videos and performances that way. And eventually we're like, guys, this is working really well. Do we want to make this like a real thing as we were coming out of the pandemic? And that's how my band came together, was from the jam nights at the Viper Room, and then through the pandemic. And then all of a sudden, I've got a band that I'm touring with now. This is amazing.
Wow. Yeah, I remember seeing those too. The pandemic is, as bad as the pandemic was, I think that the pandemic, some of the benefits from it is that it just brought out so much creativity afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
And then it brought out new technology where, before I wouldn't be able to like interview somebody from another state, so, brought technology out like this. I mean, still try and perfect it. And, but there's a lot of great things I think that came from it. You see it a lot more independent filmmakers, and I think too that people coming out of the pandemic started realizing that everything wasn't about just live and work, and they started deciding going to go after their dreams. So a lot of like a lot of the actors I bring on talk about how during the pandemic they decided when they came out that they wanted to fulfill their passion and not just waste away that talent. And I've seen a lot of that in music as well. You had a lot of people doing music and the videos, like you said. So when you you have those videos where you got everybody in a different room, that's got to be kind of awkward but cool at the same time. Everybody's doing their part and then you try to put it together. What was that like when you first saw that?
It was our main form of connection, and that's the whole purpose of life for me, is connection. So it became a little bit of a life raft through the pandemic. And then I remember the first day that we brought the band together, like in real life. It was such a magic moment. And actually one of the songs that I wrote during the pandemic with a co-writer of mine, Chaz Terra, we wrote a song called Anywhere But Home. And that's my most recent single that came out on my EP that we just released 2-3 weeks ago now. And the whole concept is, I've been sitting at home. I want to just break out of here, go break some rules and go have a good time. And so we just shifted one of the lyrics from when the world comes back, as in like when we come out of this pandemic. And then we changed the lyric to now the world is back. Take me anywhere but home. And it's like, just let's hit the road, get out of here. And that, again, another awesome creative output from the pandemic that has been able to propel my music career forward.
Cool. So what are some of the new things that you're working on?
Well, we're wrapping up the last EP. So we released 4 or 5 singles and then put it all together as one EP. And now that's fully released. The music videos are out. You can find it on Spotify, on YouTube, on all of the socials and everything. And so now LA kind of shuts down through November, December, early January, which means there's a lot of behind the scenes work that gets to be done. So I'm already booked to get back into the recording studio in December. So we're workshopping and pre-production for the new songs that we're going to record is going to be the next chapter of music that will be released in probably a year and a half. So it's this forecasting that has to be done. Now that I've done it once, I'm like, okay, now I understand the process. I understand that I don't like it, but I understand
Right.
that it's going to take that long for the song that I'm recording right now to come out in a year and a half. Because like by now, even though we just released the EP, I've been singing these songs for the last 2 years when I'm out on performances and everything. So like you really have to pick the songs that you're going to be okay to live with for the next couple of years.
Right. Hey, that's the other thing too is, once you hit, get that one song that's like everybody knows, then that's a song that, every concert you have to play is,
so you better like the song that pops off.
Right. We were talking about that with Soulja Boy when he did with this Soulja Boy and doing the Superman. That's the song everybody's waiting for, to do on stage. So, that's what I'm always doing. Right. So, now if, for our, my audience, if anybody's who's looking to get into, becoming a musician professionally, what's the biggest piece of advice you would give them?
Show up, be consistent, show up to other people's shows, be supportive. There's this scarcity mentality that only so many people are going to find success. Right. You can't be ruled by that. There's so much space for everybody to be successful. It's just the difference between somebody who's a professional and somebody who isn't is just showing up, that consistency, that track record, and building those connections along the way. So I think that's been my greatest not so secret weapon is I show up. I go to friend shows and I take notes on, okay, why didn't that song land? Why did this one land? Okay, what can I take from this to apply here? Who can I meet in the audience reading? Like I'm a sponge that way, but I'm also genuinely like supportive of my friends and I want them to succeed. And I hope they show up for me in the same way. And that's how you build your community. And one connection leads to another.
Wow. That's cool. So now if somebody's wanting to follow your career and get to hear some of your songs, what's the best way for them to do that?
However you consume your music, if it's on Spotify or iTunes, the music's everywhere. I usually push for Spotify because that's generally what I use. There's not really it's tough as a musician because I haven't figured out how to translate the streams into income. That's the trickiest part of the music industry is it's such a money maker, and the last person to make any money is the artist. And so it's a little tricky, but you can find it absolutely everywhere. I'm pretty active on social media and TikTok and Instagram and sometimes I forget about Facebook, but I got to make my way back around there.
Yeah. I was just talking to my guest earlier, Jason Pitts, and I was telling him there's so many social media sites that you have to keep track of nowadays. You got your TikTok, you got your Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Rumble. It's just hard to keep up with all of them. So
all the platforms, it's a full-time job and you have to carve out time for it. And it's not something that comes naturally to me, but I've circled around to finding the creativity and the playfulness in it where it's less of like a chore of like I have to post. Because I think what I've come to realize is social media isn't very social anymore, right? It's consumer based. Like it's less like Facebook was where you were reaching out and saying happy birthday to everybody. Now you're just consuming other people's short form content.
Yeah.
So it's just another stage.
And it's for a musician, who's used to record sales, with this whole media now where everything's digital, like Spotify's and Pandora and all the other different, Amazon Music and all the other platforms. It's got to be tough to, because, like growing up, we go buy the CD and have, all these songs on it. Now people just like, want to buy one or two songs or, as a musician, how do you guys, overcome that where you can try to get your music, get them to pick up more than just one song?
It's tricky because it's less about the albums
Mm,
anymore. Like nobody's putting out a full album because the way that they group the songs on
right.
a platform like Spotify is you can only release so many singles before you have to call it a
Mm,
collective body of work. So if you're putting out 12 songs, only 4 or 5, only 4 of those songs technically, and there's a loophole for the fifth one
right.
that gets its chance to shine as a single, and
Right.
everything else is basically a B-side track. And
Yeah.
if someone's a fan, yeah, they'll go and listen, but it's not going to be pushed out to people or put out on playlists. And that's really the only way to get your songs heard is to get on these playlists. And that's the same thing as getting into a venue. You have to know the promoters, you have to know the venue, you have to know the manager,
Right.
and this and this. And with the playlists, you got to get in with the playlist creators from this company or that third party that gets you in this way. And it's a web.
Right. Right. And I think so many people miss out on that because a lot of musicians are storytellers as well.
Yeah.
And so they like to, bring out multiple songs, and it kind of is a collective that tells a story. So I
Yeah.
think that our generation, or not say our generation, this generation misses out on that because they're picking and choosing, what songs they want to hear. But
Hmm.
from the artists themselves, I think they miss out really getting to know the artist and their story and um, their overall um, um, music and their style. By just
Hmm.
picking out one song, it makes it tough.
Well, that's why consistency is so important in
Mhm.
in terms of releasing music. Like you can't be so precious about, okay, I've got this little baby and this is gonna it's gonna take
Right,
me 3 years to get this one collection of music out. You kind of just gotta spitball it out there and then
right,
go back and chisel it away to how you want it to look,
right,
um, and sound rather. And that consistency, because everybody is so wanting to consume and short
right.
attention spans, the songs are getting shorter, the
Mhm.
collections are getting smaller, so instead of 12 you're doing 5, and that way you can keep rolling out. And it's just a different rhythm to play with right now in the music industry that takes some time to adapt and to flow
Right,
with, because it's ever changing. um, I'm a creative through and through. I
right,
don't want to be a
mhm,
businesswoman. I don't want to be in the music business. I want to be the musician. But
right,
you have to play the game and you got to keep up and you have to navigate that and learn to love that flip side. And that flip side can really
right,
drain you as an artist. So you got to find a way to love it and navigate your way through it without suffocating.
right, right. So, what about radio stations? How difficult is it to be able to get your music played on a radio station?
It's the same concept, of being pitched to the stations, pitched to the DJs.
Right,
I don't know how, you know, radio stations don't have the same outreach that they used to because people have Spotify and they can listen to specifically what they want, or they have,
right,
um, oh, I forget the name of the one that you can have in your car, but it's less likely for someone just to turn on the radio unless they're in their car. So
right,
the value that holds has shifted. I'm not saying it's less of a value, but it has changed. I actually get a fair amount of airplay in different countries, and I don't know how that translates. And hopefully, it translates to a wider fan base. But again, those are just different markets to keep track of, which is why I'm so grateful to have a team of people that actually know what they're talking about when it comes to these things. And I'm just,
right.
like I said, a sponge trying to learn what I can along the way.
Well, cool. So, yeah, I mean, it's just entertainment now is just so different from what it used to be. That's with television. You know, growing up, you have your favorite show, and every week you're sitting there watching Friends. Or whatever your show was, and then now you could go to Netflix or you go to all these different stations and binge watch shows, and it's crazy how technology has changed and the
Mhm.
consumer base has changed, how they take in.
Myself included. Like
Right,
if like you gotta grab my attention or I'm just
right,
gonna scroll past. So I either want that quick little fix or I
right,
want a full binge session. Like
right,
I want to watch all the episodes all at once, or nothing at all. I want
Right.
it just a little snip or nothing at all. There's no in between right now. And I think we'll come out of that. That pendulum's got to swing the other direction eventually.
Right.
But yeah, it's just something to be aware of, the tempo of
Wow.
the industry.
Well, cool. So you guys get a chance, go check out Dani's music. You know, you can find it on any of the streaming platforms. What's the song if you know someone's like, I want to kind of get a feel for you. What's the one song that you would recommend everybody go check out right now?
The songs that are out, I would probably say "Kissing You" or
Okay.
"Anywhere But Home."
All right, cool. So
"Kissing You" is the title track of the EP, and "Anywhere But Home" is the focus track. So those are two good ones to
go
feel
check
me
out.
out with. Mm-hmm.
Well, cool. So yeah, definitely, you guys go check out the music, and you know, follow her on her social media, and you know, let's get behind these artists and really support them and what they're doing. And let's give them more than just one song. I mean, go in there and kind of, you know,
Yeah, give it a like, give it a follow. Come find me on Instagram. That's honestly the only way I can get anywhere and continue doing what I'm doing is that interaction of you know, it may just be a click of the button to like something, but it has a massive impact for the artist that you're giving that like or that follow or that stream to, because
right.
it all calculates and adds up to currency of who's paying attention and who's not, and the algorithms and everything. So don't underestimate how important that one follow or like really is.
Right. You know, and you know, with our shows, we're all about connecting each other too. You know, not only do I like bringing people in, but I want my audience to be able to really get involved and help and, you know, and support each other, because this is a huge community. And if we all would just support each other, you know, I was thinking with your music, you know, anybody out there who has, you know, venues that they could think of that, you know, that they could book you at, definitely, you know, reach out and let her know. And then, you have a lot of directors, producers, and, you know, that's
Oh, I'd
on.
love to put my songs in a movie or a TV
Exactly.
show or something. That'd be amazing.
Right. So as you guys are thinking about, you know, the music for your movies, you know, go pull up Dani's music and see if we could get her in a couple of the films. So everything helps, man. So, um, you know, like I said, you know, our show is more about everybody supporting each other. So I want to see everybody be successful, and we could do that if we all work together. So, well, cool. Well, thank you, Dani, so much for taking time out and being on the show. It was really cool getting to know you. So
Thank you so much for having me. This was great to have a conversation with you. Thank you.
awesome, cool. So I'll send you the link to the interview too. So and I'm gonna reach out to some of the people I know and see if maybe we can push to get you on in some of these venues. So it'd be
Yes, please.
really cool. Well, cool, guys. All right. Thank you guys again for joining us. Until the next show, remember, you are uniquely designed with a purpose, and always keep moving forward. Peace.